first thing, we'll fix a couple of errors. Actually, the first one is to fix in global CSS this stuff. All these classes I think we will remove in future because it seems like not a Tailwind way, so we'll move them into components. But now just imagine that this is our legacy code, and here we just fixed the problem. So let's see what we have here. This is our previous state of the application, and now we'll try to make actually the typing widget. So to do so, we'll start from several things, and so actually we'll do a couple more fixes. For example, in git ignore I will add a dependency cruiser generated HTML file. So I will add here this one. Also in ESLint I will add a couple of rules. So this is just annoying rules that actually in the production application maybe you want to turn on, but it's actually we don't need it. So I think I will do like not 150 but 125 scaling. Next thing, we'll add actually styling and basic behavior for the input, which will be used like trainer for the typing. So I will create a new folder in features, like features typing input. Here I will add index.tsx, and let's see what we have here. So first thing, this I copied from the previous implementation, what I did before this video, and I will explain you what we have here. We use hook because in future it will be more useful to use hook for the input, because we'll have some additional helpers which will be imported from this hook. So let's try to understand what we have here. Actually, we bring here testing string like current line text. This will go from the current selected fragment in future. So also we have like input text, which will go to input, and we have valid, which will show us that our widget, our input is valid. Also here I have the function, which I haven't imported yet. And what is this function? We need to understand actually by the time we type, we need to understand what part of the string and what part of the line is completely finished without errors, and what we actually missed, or what we mistyped. And this we will use to render properly the input, because part of the input should be like read, and part of the input should be usual, like typed without mistakes. So this small function will actually show us whether part of our string is completed without mistakes. So as we see here, if we don't have anything, we just set validation of input to true, because when we don't have content, it should be validated like valid. And if we have something inside input, we should understand whether we typed correctly this part of string. So we check whether first characters actually are equal to our current target value. And if so, we set valid to true. If not, we set valid to false. So this one, I think I will extract an additional helper function, just not to have it here, but a bit later. So this one just setting new input value to the state, and we call from here the perform line change. So now the only thing that is left here, it's the rendering the JSX for the main input. And here we will have some special approach to have a mask to our usual input, because actually it's hard to implement the part of the string like read and part of the string is not, and it should be conditional. So this approach, I found this approach easier than others. So let's see how it works. We have our mask, which is actually bringing to us the new styling for the string. Like it contains exact text like input, but with different colors for the characters. Because of this, we can render our finished part, our mistyped part, and also here our placeholder. And input will be just for setting the value and render the same value. And on change event will be on this input. And also on this input we'll have the styling. So I won't explain deeply the styling here, but this part is important, that conditionally, if we know that our input is not valid, we apply this string. And actually I think it's better in future to refactor this into some, class names, invocation. So let's try actually to bring it to our page, but first we need to understand what about this function. So I will copy this function also. I will create the file which is called lib.ts. Here we have a bunch of helper functions. For example, this function will escape for us special character. This function will get regular expression for us. But actually, I won't explain the deep concept of that, I think. Let's assume we're just moving through usual algorithm just to understand the algorithm. So here we actually put our input text, current input text, and current line, which will be compared to our input text. And we see here that get return value, we should have our finished part, remaining part, and mistyped part. After that, we go through our input text. We check with regular expression parts of our current text, and we match it with our current line. And after that, we just know actually what parts of text are mistyped and are correctly typed. So now let's try actually to compose everything together in the page. So I will actually import this one from correct path like this. And now in our index page, let's remove the hard-coded JSON parse and add here our typing input, which will be taken from our hook. Sorry, not like this. Use typing input. Okay, let's see. Actually, I called it main input, but it should be typing input. Okay, now let's try to test what we have here. So this is our type input, and if we place here some incorrect things, like this, it will be red. Now we have, if we see here in typing input, I added hard-coded current line text, which is hello typer. And if I put here hello typer, it will be okay. But if I mistype something, it will be red. So this is our first step. We have this input, and I think it's already halfway for this video. Proceed with actually typing a widget. We'll use inside this widget our input and our lines, which will be calculated from the fragment. So let's actually start from the lines. So I will create folder lines under the typing features, and in the lines I will add index.tsx, and index.tsx we have the code related to lines, and I will explain you how it works. So we have a couple of interfaces here. First, about first line, because first line will be different. So we have finished part here and remaining part. Also we have interface for usual line, and it will have just text. So the first line will be looking like this. So we have pre-tag with some CSS inside. So we have here different colors for finished part and remaining part. And this is actually the reason why we should have first line as a separate component. And also we have usual line, and this line will just represent the whole fragment. So we will map through the lines in the fragment and render this component. So now let's actually proceed with the next component, and I think it will be typing widget, inside which we'll compose everything we created previously. So let's create widget. Let's call it index.tsx. So here I will put the code for typing widget, and let's think what we have here. Yeah, I think we'll add also the lib for the widget. Maybe we'll move this lib to lines. I'm not sure for now, but inside this lib we'll have some utility functions. So here we have our parsing from string, because again we don't have a proper database. It will help us. Also we have function getRandomFragment. This one will be used to pick the random fragment for the category. And also we have here a function to get lines for the fragment. And currently we see that we'll have our lines at maximum 70 characters. And now what we can do here, let's fix some paths like this. What we have in typing widget: first we query our selected category, and after that we have some initial lines, which is empty array. After that we need to understand our current fragment, and let's see. So actually we get our current fragment like random fragment from our category, and we will have memoized value because we don't need to recalculate it on every keystroke or something like that. So also we reinitialize our lines every time we change the fragment. This is important, and we reinitialize the current fragment when we change the category. So also here we have pop line. This one will be called after we finish line. So it just takes the lines, pop out the first one, and put it at the end. We will have infinite loop of lines with this helper function. And this just small function to get current line. For example, if we don't have anything. So here we have our hook, and actually here the part with speed, but I think for now we actually don't have this part, so we don't export from the hook anything, not main, not finished part and remaining part, and we don't have speed also. Let's remove it for now. It would be just use typing widget, and here we also want to export these things, because now we'll use them outside. So now we have this here sorry, not here. We have it in the widget. Typing widget, and do we have a remaining part here? Yes, we have. Let's import here, and we have remaining parts. So now we render here our typing widget. We render first line with finished part and remaining part, and we iterate through lines and render the line here. So let's see actually. Oops, yeah, one more thing. Currently we have a current line text like hard-coded. Let's put it right parameter here. And let's provide this current line. I would say actually this current line text. Now let's try to see whether everything works. So let's open our, here we'll have, sorry, remove this one, and we add our typing widget. Great, let's check in the browser. Great, we have here, seems like we have a working solution. And for now we don't have, we can type after we finish the line. We'll fix it in future, but seems it working. Let's try to actually add some more fragments, saving category. I refresh and I get random values as you see on each refreshing. So we'll have random fragment and we can type this fragment. So let's add here in typing, probably we call it like speed, because maybe it will be separate module. Let's call it index.tsx again. You know, maybe I will call it useSpeed because it's a hook. So we have useSpeed hook, and let's try to understand how it works. So the hook actually does the simple thing. It just checks the current input text and current line text. It takes the reference and actually change this reference accordingly to input text or current line text. So for example, where every time we change input text, we check whether we have some text and whether we have our ref null. We start timing, so we set our time ref from this moment. And if we don't have text, we set our ref to null. And also when we change actually a line text, we also set ref to null. So now we have, we export from here calculation of the line speed, and it will give the user the line, the time for current finishing. So for example, we finish the line and we calculate exact time on finish. So this function actually will calculate it. So a little bit of math to calculate CPM, VPM, and actually to track the characters and return some invalid values if we don't have start time. Now actually this is time to upgrade our use typing input, because we should change our lines when we finish and we should export the speed on finishing. Let's add the speed here, and what we should do, we also should have the reference for our input. Also, we know that every time we change line text, we should actually focus our current input. Also, we'll have a bit of resetting. So for example, if we want to reset the input, we'll get set input text to empty string and set value to true. And let's try to think about our finishing. Let's try to think how we finish the line. So I will upgrade this getOnChange function, and this onFinish line should go from our props, and I will add it here. Also, as you see, onFinish line will receive the property which is speed, so, and current line text. So when we actually do finish, so we know that our native event data, this is from our input, equals empty string. So this little hack actually, because we want to trigger this event a character after we finish. So we check that current input text is equal, but it will be on the next keystroke. So after that, we just call onFinish line and we're resetting the input. This is the logic. And here we get current line speed from our useSpeed hook. And I think let's actually try to check. Also, we want here, we want in the input to have on blur. And yes, I forgot to say that we need actually the state for focus. Let's see, do we have it or not? No, we don't. So we add the state for focus. So now we want to change this focus when we focus the input. We want to reset on blur and set focus to false. And actually this focus will help us to correctly change our placeholder, because we should know whether focus was lost or not. So I think we're ready to try. And seems like something is not working. Okay, let's try to check. Yeah, currently we forgot to put the callback to our widget. So let's try to see. So we have here something like this. We now have the speed, which will be provided from the input, but we don't have current line. And actually this is the current line. And okay, now let's try to check. I will refresh until I get something like this. Let's open the console. Sorry for that. Let's try to print something incorrect. Token, and here you see nothing happens, but when I press other keystroke, nothing happens. Okay, if I press space, yeah, great. So we finished, we changed our line, we get CPM chars and VPM for current line, and we can try it again. We have again this thing, and actually, as you see, yeah, we have some problems. For example, here you see many spaces. I think we'll get rid of them because we don't need so much spaces in typing practice, but we want to practice some, things from Prisma. So we'll have it in future. We'll fix this, but in general, seems like it works. As you see, this line is added at the end of the array, and we have like infinite loop of training. So I think that's it for this video. In the next ones, we'll be refactoring and upgrading the functionality. So thank you guys. I hope it was helpful.